believe from the start. Stand as one. Victory's won.
Football is more than just a game. It's a passion that connects millions around the world. Let's hear from a football expert as we explore the stories, insight, and spirit behind the beautiful game.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Expert R. And today we have a very special guest with us, Sandeep Menon. Sandeep Menon is an award-winning author, sports journalist, and a science communicator, currently serving as Senior Editorial Manager at the Office of Communication, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He has over a decade of experience in journalism, having worked with the Deccan Herald, the Times of India, and the Deccan Chronicle. His work focuses on sports storytelling, particularly football, with a strong interest in tactical analysis and narrative driven reporting. Sandeep is the author of Sacred Grounds and The Out of the Blue, chronicling Indian football culture and the journey of Bangalore Football Club, respectively. He is also the co founder of the football podcast Injury Time and serve as visiting faculty across institution. He began his career writing for digital media while doing his engineering. He then tried his hands at broadcast production as an intern with Sony Picture Network for the IPL coverage before finding his calling in the written media space. The stage is yours, sir.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. Am I audible, visible? सब सुन रहे
Yes,
हैं
sir.
मुझे?
And yes, if anybody has a question, you can just drop it in the chat box or you can type it in the YouTube comment section. Yes, sir.
Yes, so आज हम बात करेंगे फुटबॉल के बारे में. My Hindi is not very good, so most of it will be in English, but I understand Hindi and can speak fairly well. So बीच में we can switch as well, and you can ask questions in Hindi as well. That's all great. So first, I just want to talk about football. Why is football so important or so global? आप सब मेरा वो स्लाइड दिख रहा है सबको?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a photo जो हमने लिया था from Goa. The person on the left जो पीछे है ना, football the beautiful game, उसके पीछे वो मेरा दोस्त है. He was just standing around in Goa, staring at these people playing football in the beach, and suddenly उन्होंने उसको बोला कि आजा, and then he was able to go in and start playing. So it's a great tool. It's a beautiful thing that unites people in such amazing ways. Of course, जब unite होता है तो divide भी होता है. So there is a lot of division also that comes with football naturally. But it's clearly a beautiful game. So why I want to say, like, why is football so it's the biggest sport in the world. जो World Cup अब चल रहा है, it's probably the most viewed sporting thing in the world. Maybe not even sporting, probably the most viewed thing in the world. क्योंकि if you look at it now, sport is the only or the last appointment viewing. Everything is on OTT. You can watch it whenever you want. But sport, you have to watch live. So football is the biggest sport in the world, bar none. And why is that the biggest sport in the world? Because it's such a simple sport. It is very easy to play. It's very intuitive to play. Throughout history, in almost all civilization, in Shillong, in Meghalaya, we had a sport called Dait Lakor, which has maybe a different version of football. There is a football equivalent in China. The association football, as we know now, is from England. So throughout the world, people have always kicked a ball as part of play. And play is fundamental part of human history. And football is the only cultural export that has gone such a huge level in the world that everybody plays this. There is no music, no art, no what do you call dance that everybody follows in the same way, right? But football is the one game that is played across the country, across the world, rather. And it's because of many different reasons. So some of them we'll obviously mention here. So if you look at the photo on the top left, that cartoonish image, that is the old photo from Britain. So football became a sport of the of the working class, of players, a sport that is part of educational institutions, a sport that Christian missionaries all used to inculcate good values, hardworking, physical fitness, teamwork, all these kind of things. So over the years, it became less sort of codified and compartmentalized. So beginning where they used to play for their local team. Sometimes they played for their factories. Because of industrial revolution, a lot of factories had come up. So they would represent their factories. They would represent the school, their college, their area, their district, their state, and then their nation. It's easy to find something to unite yourself with a badge and a color of a shirt. So India, we wear blue color. So we know that men in blue, blue tigers, we associate that color with India, and we have a badge. So you play for that badge, and supporters like the badge. So you have this sort of very nice way of uniting people in this way under a single umbrella, and it's very easy to get united. You have some reason or the other. He represents my team. He represents my factory, my old school, my district, my village, my country. So we associate the time when most people feel nationalism is when their football team or a cricket team in India is playing sport. So that is the sort of history and why we associate with sport. If you see the second top photo, it is of Brazilian players dancing. So Brazil has this culture of dance and festivities and carnivals. So when they play football, it is a reflection of their national or how they are, how their everyday life is. So they love to dance, and if you see their football, it's very inspired by their dances and capoeira, which is a martial arts where people are dancing and fighting at the same time. So when they play football, they play like that, and when they score a goal, they celebrate with some sort of dance or a jig or something because it's part of their nature. The bottom left photos of Messi and Maradona. What we have seen also is sporting heroes becoming like gods, like how Virat Kohli is somewhat god, or Sachin Tendulkar is considered god in India because of cricket. So similarly, these players, because they represent some huge number of people, and they are able to achieve something at such a high level for your country, they are often elevated to a deity status. So Maradona was that person in 1986 when he won the World Cup for Argentina, and now Messi, after 2022, has clearly been established as the greatest player of all time, at least in the modern era. And the bottom right one is a photo of Mohan Bagan football team. Mohan Bagan football team is from Calcutta. Mohan Bagan is in 1921 when British were ruling. Mohan Bagan was the first team to beat the British team. So, what it inspired within India at that time, when you are under a colonial rule, under British rule, is that feeling that we are equal to them. So, if you go through the history and what has been written about Indians at that time by the British people who were working here, so on and so forth, they used to call, they didn't like Bengalis so much. They didn't have a lot of good things to say about them, although Bengalis were clearly very literate group, and who used to write poems and very educated in some sense. They looked at the Nepali Gurkhas, Punjabis as the warrior clan. They didn't look at Bengalis at the same level. So for a team from Bengal to beat a British team while playing barefoot, if you see their photo, none of them are wearing boots. So while playing barefoot in a sport that is something that is so important to the British in 1921 was a huge part of freedom movement. It inspired a whole generation. It made them feel that we are equal. This kind of thing you also see in Kerala, in the Malabar region as well, which we might talk about later. So if you look at all of these things, you realize that football is not just a sport. In actually, or any sport is not just a sport, but football more than any other. It is a mixture of your history, your culture, your religion, your geography, your whatever is happening around you, your social life, everything comes as part of football. So when a World Cup match happens, it is it is not 11 aside, two teams of 11 playing each other. It is two nations playing each other. So when two nations are playing each other, they come with a huge amount of history. colonial past or previously having had some football rivalry, so on and so forth. So when Brazil played Japan yesterday, there is a huge amount of cultural exchange between Brazil and Japan. So there is a huge amount of Japanese who are working in Brazil. They came in at a time when Brazil needed workforce, so they had come at that time, and a lot of Brazilians have gone to Japan as well. Even when Japan was starting to do their World Cup project, their first big import was Zico, who was a British Brazilian legend, and many other young Brazilian players used to go there for education and to play and so on. So those two countries have a very close relationship and a huge cultural exchange. So this is a nice sort of relationship. But when, say, France plays Algeria or France plays Morocco, there's a colonial history there, which is not as friendly. So when nations meet each other, it's a lot more than just a football game. So this is what I'm saying about football, which is a tool for identity and inspiration and unity. Now I'll show you some images. The image in the center here with the green, "Today we dare to win." That is a photo taken from Celtic fans. So Celtic is a club from Scotland in Glasgow. They are historically associated with the Catholics, and their rivals in Glasgow is called Glasgow Rangers or Rangers. They have a Protestant background. So when these two clubs play against each other in Glasgow, it's called the Old Firm Derby. That derby carries with it the two identity of the two group of people who live there. So obviously it's not as fierce as it used to be in some sense, because we have outgrown a lot of these things, and a lot of people have married between each other, and that's sort of dissipated. But they still identity and stand for two different things. So when they play each other, it's that identity is at conflict there. The photo on the right top is a photo from the Egyptian derby in Cairo between Zamalek and Al Ahly. So that's a fan who was cheering for his team at that time. So Al Ahly is the local national. It's called the national is what it translates to. It's a team of the working class people. It's a team of the people. So when they were under colonial rule, Zamalek was the team of the colonizers, and they didn't allow these local players to play there. And then it later became a team of aristocrats, the kings and the rich people. So when these two teams play against each other in Cairo, it's a clash between the haves and the have-nots, let's say. So the game is a lot more emotional. Wins and losses matter a lot more than 3 points or whatever. The photo at the bottom right, that's the photo between East Bengal and Mohun Bagan in Calcutta. Mohun Bagan, whose identity comes from the Bengalis who were living in Calcutta at the time, when there was migration coming from, I mean, for a long time, that was the identity. And East Bengal, a lot of this is now in Bangladesh. When the migration happened from Bangladesh to India, to Calcutta or West Bengal, those players identified with East Bengal. So it's called Ghoti Bengal rivalry. So these are the identity that is at clash when these two teams play at each other. This rivalry is considered one of the top 5 rivalries in the world. You would think India has no football culture because we don't play in the national team, etc. Sorry, World Cups and all. But it is absolutely false. We have a lot of culture here. It's just not harvested well. We can talk about that later. This is so important to the city of Calcutta in general, that when one team wins, so when East Bengal wins, the price of the fish called hilsa, which is a freshwater fish that is found on that side, that goes up. And when Mohun Bagan wins, the price of prawns goes up. So just the victory is not only socially impactful, it is also impactful at a level of local economics. So that is the level of rivalry that they have. I think Zamalek and Al Ahly also has a rivalry like this. Like, one of the fans don't drink milk in the run up to that derby because the other team is wearing white. So it has that kind of influence to the people. The black and white photo below, it's a very interesting story. That is the Algerian national team that played at a time when Algeria themselves was struggling for independence with the French. So basically, this team who were playing, a lot of them were playing football in France. They defected from France and started playing for a unofficial Algerian national team as a way to sort of represent as a national symbol. They were all great players, so they would win these games. So they were going around playing to show the symbolism of Algeria, to get support, to inspire people. So they did all this. Never once played at home because at that time they couldn't. So they traveled all across, the Middle East, the Arab world, and they went to USSR, Yugoslavia side, even went as far as Vietnam and China and all of this. So they played over 100 games in I think 3 4 years. And when the independence did happen, they were considered as a big symbol for the sacrifice that they made for their career, where they could have earned a lot of money. Some of them were picked to go for the World Cup also to represent France. They gave all that up so that they could fight for independence. And the photo on the left bottom is of Didier Drogba. This is after Ivory Coast gained qualification for the World Cup. So I'm just going to play a small video of Drogba. So after winning the qualification for the World Cup, at a time when Ivory Coast was having civil war and problems within the country, Drogba then went on national television from the dressing room and asked them to stop fighting and to start doing elections, and so that we can go forward. And because after this, they actually went and he went to both sides of the civil war, spoke to them, and they held elections, and they were able to move towards independence. So this is the video that he made.
Dans l'avenir comme ça. Déposer tous ces armes, faites les élections, organisez les élections, et tout ira du mieux. On veut s'amuser. Arrêtez-vous.
So he basically asked them all to stop creating problems and forgive each other and move forward. So this is the power of sport to inspire and influence, an entire country or even the world. So this I wanted to just mention. Football is a reflection of history, as I mentioned. Everything comes together when people play. So currently, what we see is 24% of the players that are playing in the 2026 World Cup are playing for a team that is not the country where they were born in. So that just shows that the world is expanding. A lot of people are traveling and moving around and so on. So 2006, 20 years ago, that was just 9%. So in the last 20 years, we have had such huge migration and people settling down in different places for opportunities and life, etc., that the world is no longer divided purely as it used to be, say 50 years ago, with brown people here, white people here, those kind of things. It's no longer like that. We are truly in a time when globalization is everywhere in terms of money, in terms of culture, everything. So this is the great influence that we've had, or the impact of how world is reflected in sport that we can see here. Actually, this is a Cape Verde team, that photo. 14 members of that team are from outside of Cape Verde. So they could go and their fathers or mothers or grandfathers had left Cape Verde, settled in other places, most importantly in Netherlands, and they could go back and represent their people. On the right side is just the evolution of foreign players in Indian football, or the influence that foreign players have. So if you look at the top side in 1970s and 80s, even before that, right? Post independence. In the beginning, the people who came to India were from our neighboring states. It was Bangladesh and Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Some came from Iran. And that is who shaped our early football. It shaped as in our own players were the big part of it, but the foreigner influence from these kind of places. And a lot of them also came to study. So Jamshid Nasiri, Majid Ali, and all these people came from Iran to study in India, which was a thing that they used to do. India also had, in the 1950s, they signed something to get African people to come and study in India as well. So post that, talent from Africa has come in. First, initially as students and then started playing here. So Nigeria has clearly dominated that field. So from late 90s to 2010s, the African players have come from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Cameroon, from all these countries. They have come here and influenced our football in a very good way. So they would come here initially for education and then they'll stay on and play. I think one of them even played for Nigeria in the World Cup. So they have that's the influence that we've had. And throughout it all, we also had a Brazilian player who used to come. Who obviously not the greatest of players, but they came here because they were met each other in tournaments and they came and they played. So when somebody plays, people like the style of football, so they bring more. So after 2014, when the ISL started, we have seen a reduction in the number of African players at the top level of football, but an increase in European, mostly Spanish. And that comes because when 2010, 28, 2008, 2012, and 2010. So Spain won two Euros and one World Cup. So everybody was looking at their football as the greatest at that time. So India did the same. So when ISL came, a lot of Spanish coaches came, and with the Spanish coaches, they bought Spanish players as well. So the number of players influence changed. So what used to be a fairly direct style of football in India till then has now evolved to a lot more passing game because the Spanish players are very adept at passing. So our football is always influenced by the coaches and the players that come here, and that is because of migration. So migration is a big part of football in general. I'll talk about Indian migration within the context of India also later, and to say that how football is sort of representative of all of this. So let's now focus on India, right? World football, we already mentioned. So if you look at India as a footballing nation, this is a data that was collected. The one on the left was collected by a coach here called Richard Hood, who's one of the best, smartest minds in Indian football. We know that 80% of our minutes is the players who play, comes from just 7 states. So that is 13.7% of our population produces 80% of footballers who are playing at the top two divisions. So that's Manipur, Mizoram, West Bengal, Punjab, Goa, Kerala, and I think that's Sikkim, Maharashtra. So this is why football culture is so dominant in these places. So when I was writing the book, the one on the right side is the places where I travel to. So I added places like Nagaland. I didn't go to Maharashtra, but I went to Nagaland. And you pick and choose your different places because there is interesting stories and great culture to be spoken about. Sikkim is another place I think that could have been added into the point. So what I'm saying is, in India, it's easy to think it's dominated by just one sport, but that is not the case. Every place in every country, there is pockets where football or the other sports are dominant. So if you look at wrestling in India, majority of the players come from the Haryana side, that area, because that's where the competition is at the fiercest. If you look at South India in general, in athletics, Kerala, Tamil Nadu produces a lot of sprinters and jumpers, hurdlers, those kind of athletes, not so much throwers. Throwers come from the northern side. So it's not just about people there, but it's about the culture. I'll tell about how you develop culture in different places later in the speech. So this a little bit about history of football in India, how it took root. So clearly the first one, as I mentioned, is the East Bengal Mohan Bagan team, the dominance that they had. So football came to India through very different ways. So it either came through missionaries who came to India, or it came through the barracks or the army. So Punjab, for example, came through army because there was an army stationed over there. In Kerala, the northern side had a barracks in Calicut, so that's where the Malabar football's history comes from. But the southern side had educational institutions, which is where their football comes from. You look at the Ukhrul state football team, the photo over there in 1934. It came through the school system over there, and on the right side is Mizoram. It's their Lamual ground, which is the historic ground that they have in Aizawl. That photo is taken. Again, football came through institutions and the church and all that kind of stuff. So football has come in very different ways, but it's taken root because of many, many factors. One is clearly environment. So for a game to grow, it has to have competitions and rivalry. So that has to have a condition. There has to be a condition for a sport to take root. So if this is a Google Map image of two villages in Malappuram in Kozhikode in Kerala. So you can see on the top side there is a place called Terattammal, and below there is a river in between, and then there is Arikode. So before a long time, there was no bridge. So the people from Arikod and Theratamil used to have a huge rivalry because it's like a sibling rivalry. It's like any other derby that you see, Madrid derby, two teams in Madrid or two teams from Manchester, two teams from London. So it's the same thing. Two teams from the same locality, when they play against each other, they want to beat each other. Basically, they are separated by a river, Chaliar River, and that was a huge competition. So when football came here, there was a pre-existing feeling of, oh, people across, let's play the people across the river, and we'll see if we can beat them. And if you get beaten, it sort of increases the rivalry. So for a long time, these two played against each other, and this region has produced over 50 players. When some lot of them went on to play for the national team, many of them got jobs, many of them played in the leagues, etc. Over the course of it started even before independence. So that environment, this sort of environment is not available everywhere. So if you go to Chennai, for example, the northern part of Chennai is where the footballers come from. A lot of footballers come from that side because it's not football is generally in not in found that successful in affluent regions. Football is the sport of the people. So the northern part of Chennai and the southern part of Chennai has an economic disparity because of colonialization. It was white town and black town and all, as the British said it. So because of that, boxing and football is dominant in the north, but cricketers often come from the south. There will always be outliers, but the general trend is what I'm saying. If you look at Bangalore as a city, cantonment region, which is where the British garrison used to be, or British was living staying here, that region largely produces footballers, while the old Mysore state region does not produce as many footballers. But they produce a lot more table tennis players, badminton players, cricket players, etc. So again, it's a culture and history and environment of these places which facilitate which sports they choose. So although I'm talking about football, for India to be a sporting country, the first thing that we need to do is identify which are the areas that are dominating in which sport and ensure that they get maximum amount of support so that football or cricket or basketball or whatever can get maximum game time and competition and improve. So that's the environmental factor. So this is a cultural side. So this photo is the top one on the top left is of a ball made from plantain leaf, not plant, yeah, from coconut basically. So I used to play with these balls because this is something that you made in Kerala a lot. I'm sure variations of this are made elsewhere as well. So what happens is if you look at Kerala's history, a lot of the games, indigenous games in Kerala, indigenous is the games that you play locally before all these organized games came. So they were played with just a ball, or they were, running and jumping, those kind of games. So because of the ball being such a big factor and running up and down, say because of the Western Ghats in Kerala, running up and down in these places, you have certain different physicality. So if you look at the sport that Kerala is good at, it is hurdles and runnings and jumps, volleyball, football, badminton to an extent. So these are sports that have come because of the region being what it is. You have a history of playing with just a ball and running around. So the ball sport becomes dominant. So similarly, badminton. So it again, you can even go further into the smaller pockets. So there is a small town in Narikuni, which is 24 kilometers away from. It's a village, 24 kilometers away from Kozhikode, which is the third biggest town district, but a big town in Kerala. They play in that side. They have produced a lot of volleyball players. The reason being, although they like their football, their geography is sort of up rolling hills, up and down, not very tall hills, but up and down hills. So they would do far cultivation in smaller areas. So sevens football, which is the variation of football that Kerala produced, is because of the paddy fields during post-harvest season. They played in the paddy fields, and the field was small, so they could only play seven aside. So that's why they play seven football. But in this region, it was even smaller, and the geography or the terrain was up and down, so they had even less space. So they picked up volleyball, and they were people who were generally able to run, jump very high. So small factors have huge influence on what sport is taken over and then how it becomes successful. The other ones are from Manipur. So you look at the bottom left one, that it looks like a hockey game, but it's an indigenous Mukna Khangji, I think is what it is called. It's a wrestling, hockey, very physical sort of thing. That game that the Manipuris traditionally used to play. And the one on the right side is called UB Lappi, where a player runs with a oiled coconut. It is an indigenous version of what is rugby right now. So these sports have already existed there, and then it makes sense that these guys are able to translate that into a strong ball sports that are that has a lot of running involved in it. So physicality involved in it. So Manipur produces the most amount of players now. They're starting to play hockey also. They're great in boxing. They're great in taekwondo. They're great in combat sports. That is generally the history of Manipur sporting culture. Very, very strong sporting culture. Because historically they have always been at war from the Myanmar side or from other people, from local tribal rivalries, etc. So then for them, martial arts and physical fitness is always a big part of daily life. So because of this, uh, their sporting culture is very strong. So this is the environment and the cultural aspect that signifies or that shows why sports is dominant in certain regions and why certain sports are dominant in certain regions. So next is the geography, influence of geography on sport. So how you play football also has a how you play any sport for that matter. How you play football is a reflection of the places. So, for example, if you look at the larger context of world football, uh, England is known for their long balls. Long ball is when you hit from the back to a tall striker and they head it and whatever. So that sort of direct football is a result of a country who has a lot of rain and then slushy grounds. So you can't pass very well. So they found a solution how to play football without really using a lot of the field. And the players who are considered as great players in England are often players who played on the sides, on the wing, as they say. It's because that is where the least amount of slush is found. So those players can actually dribble and run at players. So then the players and the style of football is influenced by how your region is. Similarly, you have the number 10 or the creative midfielders who are given a lot of precedence in Latin America, both Brazil and Argentina, who talk about great skill and dribbling because that is part of their culture with the samba and the the dances and all these festivities from Brazil and so on. So that's the way they play the game. German football is quite organized. So these are all general stereotypes or generally what you've seen over the years. They are changing obviously now because of migration, because of better pitch and better turf they play on, so they can play differently. So all these are ever evolving things. But there has always been a correlation for how geography and weather and culture influence. So if you look at the bottom left photo, that is from Kerala. It's if you see that kind of dust they are not ideal for sprint dribbling. So they have fast players who run onto the ball, quick players, because that's there. If you see behind, it's slightly hilly also. So they are used to climbing up and down and all that kind of stuff. So they have fast twitch muscle fibers, I think, and they play a certain style of football that suits them. The photo next to it is from Punjab. Punjab is flat, long grounds, tall, strong people. So they are able to play long balls because it's convenient and it works for them because physically it works for them and geographically it works for them. If you look at Mizoram and those hilly regions, Nagaland, etc., they cannot play long balls or they don't play long balls because one, they don't have the stature. They are not very tall people, except for say Meiteis and few tribes over there. But generally speaking, they play with ball on the ground. Another major reason is in Aizawl, uh, because it's so hilly, flat grounds are very rare and very small often. So if I hit a long ball and the ball goes out of the field, then you have to run for 1-2 kilometers to go and pick up the ball. So they end up being, passing it short and all that. So they develop their skill in that way. So the top right photo is from Meghalaya. Meghalaya is also hilly, but they have huge influence of people coming from outside Meghalaya being there. So Bengal, from Odisha, from Kerala, from all these places. So they all come with their ideas of football, and it rains a lot. So because of that, they have a little bit of this idea of long ball as well as technical football. Because when it rains, you can't play on those grounds. So they have developed their own style. And the last one is a photo from Tutur, which is a sort of coastal fishing village, which has produced a lot of players in Tamil Nadu near Kanyakumari side. They have got that red sand or red mud grounds. So, and they play with a certain power and physicality in running. Because after this, what they do is they play here and then they go play beach football, which is very tough, and then swim in the ocean. So they are very strong group of people. So they are able to play that kind of football, and that is the football they easily associate with. So you have styles that are influenced by geography, from history, from culture, and many other factors, sociology and so on. Another one about why football are dominant in certain parts of the country is the fact that they have local heroes. So there is two concepts. One is called a local hero, which is when somebody goes and does something in your region, your own person goes and does it. So it's like, let's look at once people went to the moon, it became something that everybody felt they can also do. Until that one person goes to the moon, it is always very difficult to believe that you can get there. So the person on the top left is Olympian Rahman from Kozhikode district. He is one of the earliest superstars that they produced. The one at the bottom, black and white, is Jarnail Singh from Punjab. He was a man who came to Mahilpur. Mahilpur is a small village in Hoshiarpur district on the northern side of Punjab. They produce a lot of players. So Harmanjot Khabra, Manisha Kalyan, Harpreet Singh, Anwar Ali, Arjit Singh, Arshdeep Singh, Amrinder Singh. They all come from this cluster of villages in a 20-kilometer radius. And he was the first one. Once he went and showed what a player from their locality could do, they have consistently gone and done the same. So that's the local hero effect. The one on the top with me is Eugene Chan Lindo, who is from Meghalaya, and the guy below with me is Shailo Malsam Tlanga, or Mama, from Mizoram. He was the first Mizo player to sort of become a big name outside Mizoram. And the reason why Mizoram is now one of the best football producing regions in the country. We'll get to that later. So this idea of local heroes, and the second concept I mentioned earlier is called birthplace effect. Where you are born decides a lot of what you'll do. So what sport you choose is based on where you're born. Like if you're born in South India, the chances of you being a Winter Olympian is very little because it's not conducive. There is no history for it. Geographically, it's not possible. So that way, it has a huge influence on where you're born, on what you do later on. So you also find a lot of say army coming from Punjab and Nepal, that side. You have a lot of doctors, nurses coming from Kerala. These are all because of the history that these regions have. So yeah, so that is also represented in sport as well. So these are some lesser known stories that is mentioned here. So the person on the top left is a Naga hero called Dr. Talimaran Ao, first independent Indian captain. And he is one of the reasons why Nagaland football is so dominant. It was so, popular there. Although in the larger scheme of things, in Indian national level, Nagaland footballers haven't done well, but the passion in Nagaland for football is very, very high. The other person next to him is Kiran Kongsai, who's the first player from Manipur to go and play for the national team in the 1990s, early 90s. And subsequently, if you see, once he went and did what he did, the entire Manipur region has been producing crazy amount of footballers. So the bottom photo is Jawaharlal Nehru shaking hands with Appa Rao. Appa Rao was a footballer from Kakinada in Andhra. And just to go back, so the Shailo Malsam Tulunga, when he came out of Mizoram, nobody had gone and done what he had done. So once he did it, the next generation of players realized, oh, they could also do it. So once they all did it, that unbroken line started to come from Mizoram. So you just need that one person to break through and inspire a whole lot of generation after. So this is another one. Is there an Indian style of football as a vehicle for representation? So when Mama went and started winning, so I don't know if you guys know the history of Mizoram. Mizoram had a famine in the 1950s called Motom, when all the bamboos flowered and the rats came in and ate everything. So they were having a famine. And as a fallout for that, there was a huge movement for Mizo independence and self-determination, etc. So in Mizoram is the only place in India where Indian government is actually bombed. Aizawl was bombed from the flight from a plane. Actually, it must be in the 1960s, I think. So until 1986, where they signed the Mizoram Peace Accords, it was not a very peaceful place. So when Mama came out and started playing for India, it broke something in that suddenly Mizoram felt part of India because one of their own is starting to play. And because of Mama, now Mizoram is a major part of India, not just in football. A lot of people are traveling and there's a lot of cultural exchange that is happening, etc. So that is the importance of representation. The bottom right is actually a video of a player from North Chennai called Nagesha. So Nagesha was so dominant and so famous and carried so much pride of being from this part of Chennai that they produced a song called for a song. It's called Ghana song. That's a type of song. It's a local version of a song, like how you have Brazil has a type of song, or these regional variation. So this song they produced about Nagesha. So I'll just play it. தமிழகத்தில் சிறந்த வீரனாக சமைத்தானங்கோ அவர் அருமையாக கணக்கு பண்ணி வாணி அடிப்பார் பாருங்கோ தமிழகத்தில் சிறந்த வீரனாக சொன்னானங்கோ அவர் அருமையாக கணக்கு பண்ணி வாணி அடிப்பார் பாருங்கோ பழிச்சு மலிச்சு கோல் அடிச்சா உனக்கு நல்ல பேருங்கோ பழிச்சு மடிச்சு கோல் அடிச்சா உனக்கு நல்ல பேருங்கோ So basically, he's singing about how to play a beautiful game in the right way, and that how amazing Nagesha was. So because of him, that region is getting representation at a very high level. Similar to Mama, similar to Kiran Kongsai, came to Terimalanao, many other players all over. And this can be from a state level, from a region level, from a district level, etc., etc. So football is a great vehicle to show people, look, we are also here, and to carry that pride for the whole locality also. So it's more than just a sport, is what I'm saying. And now they often say football or any sport should not be mixed with religion. That is, or politics for that matter. That is not true. This is a photo from Punjab. So they play a tournament in a school under the aegis and the support of the local Gurudwara. The politicians come, give trophies in Kerala, in Bangalore, in Northeast, all these regions. Politicians take an active role in conducting local tournaments and being part of football, being part of whatever sport is possible. And as well, if you go to Goa, there is also a large number of players who their village tournament is played on the feast day of the local church. So every church, based on whoever is the one that they are worshipping over there, patron saint of the church, have different feast days. So they have a football tournament with the final happening often on the feast day of that taluka or locality, etc. So these are, nothing happens in a vacuum. Sports, arts, culture, music, anything and everything, nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything has some connection to each other. Now you should not look at it as a bad thing or a good thing. It is just a thing in general. So a lot of people think when politics and religion become part of football or sport, it's bad or it's good or whatever. It's neither of these things, and it can be both these things. Important thing is to understand that nothing happens in a vacuum. So here is the photo. But the leftmost photo is the father from the local church and a policeman awarding something to a player who was playing in Tutur. Even the one on top of that is the same from the same tournaments. You see a bunch of these local local churches, fathers and patrons sitting there at the dais watching the game because it's part the Tutur tournament is between different villages and each village is represented has a church that is part of it. So they all play under the different names. The one on the right and the person that I am standing with, that's a fascinating story in Nagaland. So again, I don't know if you guys know the history. Just to recap, Nagaland also had an independent movement that had been going on, maybe still going on at a very low level, for a very long time. So it led to a lot of insurgency issues and so on. And the people in Nagaland found it very difficult to live normal lives. So Dr. Vati Iyer, who is the person here, he had a huge amount of negotiations with these different factions of the insurgency groups to try and solve the matter. So what he found in multiple meetings is that it was very difficult for these people to trust each other. And as frustrated by these multiple meetings going nowhere, he said one time, just let's just take a break and we'll just go to the park and play some football. And through playing that football match, friendly game at that time, slowly, he saw that everybody started becoming more friendly because the people who refused to speak to each other were suddenly asking each other for ball, were high-fiving each other when somebody scored a goal. And he realized that that's a great way to thaw the ice, so to speak, to break and to increase the trust and so on. So through football, they were able to break that issue in the beginning, and then they played a couple of reconciliation football games in Kohima and in Dimapur, where the insurgency team played against the local cultural Naga Ho-Hos and many other cultural organizations. They played a friendly game as a reconciliation thing in 2008. And since then, it has been a huge move towards normalcy and things getting better and so on and so forth. Because my book has this chapter, and if you read it, you will understand the emotional toll that it took and the emotional release that the people got after having this match and seeing what was happening and seeing people like playing football together and being hopeful of a good future. So it's all connected, and football or any other sport can be a great tool to unite people as well. Again, some connections here. I showed the Mohan Bagan East Bengal one. The big ground at the bottom is Goa. That is a football tournament that I went to, the final. So the church is right behind where the photo is taken, and the ground is right next to it. So it was the local team playing in the final that day. The people that are there. So the top left one, his name he's the sports minister, I think, now in Mizoram. He was Tate Hamar. Tate Hamar was a football secretary, association secretary. And then he did such a good job that they asked him to run for elections and he won. The person on the right is Eugene Lindo again. He also got into politics briefly, was an MLA for a while and then left. The player at the bottom is JJ Lalpaklua, again from Mizoram. He is now MLA from Nathial, which is a district where he is from. So he has become part of the political situation in Mizoram because he did so well in football and he had such a goodwill and he promised and he's doing good things. And the All India Football Federation President Kalyan Chaube himself has contested for in elections twice. So everything is sort of mixed together, and many of these guys have done great jobs. Especially Tete Hamar is one of the fundamental reasons why football in Mizoram is doing so well, and Mizoram is being such a talked about state in the country, not just in terms of football, but in general, as clean plays and lane discipline and so on and so forth. He has been instrumental in development of the image of Mizoram as it is. Now, we also use football as vehicles and branding tools and everything. So the bottom right is a photo of players playing with guns as part of the ongoing issue in Manipur. We don't need to talk too much about it. But the other two are from movies. So football is used in movies as a way to explain things. They are both from Malayalam movies, so I don't think you'll understand the language. But basically, I'll tell you the bottom left one is about Dulquer Salman, who's the actor there. He's explaining what communism is in very simple romanticized terms, while having just walked out of the football field wearing an Argentina jersey. So the setting is set up in such a way that this is a natural conversation, but you can clearly see the relationship between football and politics in Kerala. And the top one, this is a very old movie. So when I show this video, you're going to laugh because it looks hilarious and it doesn't pass, mustard at this moment. But at the time, what you are seeing is a team of four people wearing shoes and shorts, and a guy who's wearing mundu and I don't know, maybe slippers or maybe barefoot. He is Mammootty, who's the hero, and he is playing football in a very Malayali attire, whereas the other people are wearing more Western clothes. And this could have been a fight scene where the hero obviously beats the villains, but rather than doing that, just by him playing football and beating these four, people, he has shown the heroism and also about how he is still, such a rooted in the local Kerala style, and he's still beating these people. So I'll play the video. It's funny, but it's the fundamental story that is being, or the narrative that is being told here. So he's asking, can you play? All four of you versus me alone. So that's the heroism angle, and he's obviously wearing mundu and all that stuff, right? Against these guys who are clearly clothed differently. But football is bad, I have to say. But this is, again, remember that this is an old movie. We have come far from this. The music also makes it a little funny, I have to say. See, what you see is four people together or five people together are unable to beat this one man. This is equivalent to a fight scene. And at the same time, everything is represented from an identity standpoint, etc. See, he scored the goal. And the music changed. He's won the fight. So this is how sport is used to tell stories, etc. So this is Kerala only, but we have movies from Bengal, movies in Manipur, movies. Actually, one movie in, I think it started in Bengali, which was translated or remade in Kannada, in Malayalam, in Marathi, and maybe others also. It's about the story of a goalkeeper. So that's the story that you can say about people through football. Many examples are there. I was just giving you some whatever I had suddenly thought of. Well, many other movies in Kerala also carry the same thing. So it's a vehicle to talk about what you are as a person, to show your identity, to show your politics and your culture and your social status, etc., etc. Now, migration. So, Indian style of football. Often we think about what that is, and migration in India, within India, has also been a big reason for this workforce also. So, T. Shanmugam, who is on the left side here, is in the center. He is from Karnataka. Yeah, I think he's a Tamilian from Karnataka who went to Goa, had a long time as a coach in Goa. Along with him, there was Joseph Ratnam also, same from Bangalore, who went to Goa. Those two people have had a huge influence on how Goa played its football. So Goa used to play a very Portuguese style, which is a lot more power and flair, and then shoot from distances and so on. But these two coaches went there. I think one was there for 20 years, and another was there for 17, 18 years. So in that time, they changed a lot about how Goa plays football, short passing style football. So Bangalore has a style of football which is short passing style, because they used to play barefoot against booted British people, and the British, they didn't want to get kicked. So one of the solution they found is pass short and pass quickly to not get kicked. And these two carried that into Goa and influenced how Goa plays its football. And this is how Goa has evolved. Because these two are long-standing coaches, the players they trained then became the next generation of coaches and carried on that style. So Arman Colosso is one of them. Flavio Madeira is one of them. Derek Pereira, so many other coaches who have won national leagues and so on have come from their teachings or tutelage. The player on the right, or the photo on the right, is E. Sugumaran is the person on the left. So what has happened here is E. Sugumaran went and saw players from Tutur. As I mentioned, Tutur is in Kanyakumari district. It's really far away from Chennai, which is the capital of Tamil Nadu, but quite close to, it's a border state, or border region rather, to Kerala. So a lot of these people used to go and play football in Kerala or try to look for work in Kerala. And also people in Tirunelveli region knew of this place, but in Chennai, not as much. But Sugumaran is the first person or the first coach who took the players from this region to Chennai, and then they all started doing well. So what was initially this region was mostly people doing fishing and so on. But because Sugumaran took them there, they found jobs. They started getting, education for free because they were playing for their, different places and different institutions. So then suddenly they realized football is a great way to get out of this region and get into good jobs and good places, and then make good money. So now, if you look at it, a lot of the people in Tutur have gone on to have very good education, and it started somewhat influenced by football in the 1990s. So we all look at sport as a win-lose situation where you have to win everything, but you can also look at it as a way to get yourself to the next level. A lot of people who are struggling can use sport as an avenue to go to the next financial economic level, or they can learn how to play and improve their fitness level. A lot of these places, Mizoram, particularly Goa, all of them use football to allow students or kids to stay away from social evils. Don't drink, don't smoke, play football, develop, physically you'll be better. Camaraderie, friendship, and all part of this. You learn how to win, but more importantly, you learn how to lose, and you learn how to not have great emotional highs or lows when these things happen, to be at an even keel, to improve your ability to come back when you are down. All these things are part of sport. So it's important that we realize that it's not just about winning and losing at the highest level. It is also about moving up and down in the social skills, in the ladder, in your life as well, to open up opportunities. Impact of Calcutta football, it's the same thing. All five of these Panchabandavas, who were a great top five players in the 1950s for East Bengal, that was very dominant. All five of them are from South India, and they've gone there and influenced Calcutta football tremendously. There are many others also who have done that. Panchabandavas are clearly the standout. As we wind down, I have mentioned earlier about Mizoram's national acceptance. This is a quote from what I was able to get from a person in Mizoram. And he's saying a feeling of alienation was always there. It still is, especially among the elders. They are a generation who fought for independence. We always feel we are different from mainland Indians. Those days, they wanted to play against India. In the 50s and the 1970s, they fought against India. Now their sons and grandsons or local boys are playing for India. So they have also started cheering for India. So football has done a lot. So that's what I mentioned when you say just by these kids going and playing for the national team, you are able to identify a lot more. It's a great tool for representation. It's a great tool for inclusion, to feel part of a country or feel part of a collective. So football, specifically football, is really, really useful for this. But generally, any sport, once you start doing well, is important. So I just want to end based on the book that I wrote about sacred grounds. These are some of the stories you'll find, but there is a lot more details and so on. So I wanted to say why I wrote about it as sacred grounds. The book does not go through the top level of football. It goes through the local football that you play, etc. This is the ground that I grew up playing in. It's next to my house. It's a school ground, as you can see. That's a school. That's a public school in maybe 10 minutes walk from my house. So how we started playing here is we went here to play when the school was out, and we are not allowed to go in because of whatever reasons, policy and whatnot. So we went to the headmaster of the school, asked him permission to play football once the school is shut, in the evenings and weekends and so on. So weekends our seniors are anyway playing, but evenings we wanted to play. So what we did is we struck a deal with the headmaster that we will water the plants for you on every evening before the game. We will water all the plants, and then in return we play football, and we will water the plants during the weekend also when nobody's here. So if you see the plants in the middle, some of them we take a lot of credit for it. So that's how we got access to playing in this ground. Now this ground in our region, this is where the voting happens during the election. This is where the local festival Ayyappan Valakku during the Sabarimala season. This is where the festivities happen. So we come here to eat food almost on a daily night and sit on the outside. They serve food outside, so most of us used to come sit in this side and eat. This and we all used to. This is where the entire neighborhood kids come and play. So there was no differentiation between religion, region, language, none of those things. We were all friends. We were all in the neighborhood. We played together. We came here and prayed together. We came here and voted. Our parents came and voted. On the right side of this building, there is a marriage hall. So all the marriages used to happen over there. So sometimes they would call us and say, there is extra food. You can go and eat there in the evenings or parties or whatever. If there are some leftover food, they call us and give us food. So this ground is the life and blood in my region, where people like me as kids who grow up are able to find my community, is able to sort of relate to my people, is able to be a part of my community more than anything else. So that ground is sacred to me, and it's sacred to all my friends who grew up playing here. And throughout my travel, I found so many sacred grounds in so many different parts of the country where there is local festivals and local markets and everything, football, everything happens in the same ground. So it becomes a great place for everybody to sort of, be together and so on. So sacred grounds to me then means a lot. So when the book's name suggestion came, initially I was a little skeptical, but then it made so much sense that this is a ground where I learned so many things. I hurt myself. I have ankles were broken and all these things, but this is where I found my people and became part of the community more than anything else. So yeah, football is a great tool of being together and supportive, etc. So yeah, I hope that presentation was useful for you. That is the end of my presentation as well. Hope that was interesting.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we have like few questions from the students. I'll start asking. So the
Sure,
first
yeah.
question, yeah. So the first question is from Araf. He's from Kullu, and his question is how did you start your journey in football media, and what skills helped you grow in this field?
It was a little lucky in some sense. I used to write. I'm an engineer. I haven't done journalism per se, but I used to write about football because that's what I like to do. I used to read a lot about football and so on. So that was where it started, and then luckily I was able to get an internship somewhere, and then got an opportunity to work in Deccan Herald, Deccan Chronicle first, and then Times, and then Deccan Herald, and so on. The thing that I learned the most is to be consistent, because motivate. It's great to say I am very motivated to write football, or motivated to do anything. The idea that if you keep doing it daily, day and daily, it just becomes part of your life. So motivation is a thing that is fickle. It comes and goes. What you need is consistency. And journalism really teaches you to be consistent, because every day before 12 a.m. or 12:30 a.m., whatever is your deadline, your articles, your paper, your thing, your edition has to go. Whatever it doesn't matter what sort of mood you're in, it doesn't matter what sort of situation or problems that you're facing, that has to happen. So discipline and consistency is what really journalism taught me, and it's something that I take into my life every day. When I teach, I keep telling them to be disciplined and consistently do whatever they want to do. You want to be a great guitar player, play guitar every day. You want to learn a language, learn it every day. I'm not saying learn for 1 hour and whatever, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, little bit of time, so that you keep incrementally improving yourself. And one thing I'll always say anything to everybody about anything is read. read as much as possible. There are great books and great, maybe now podcasts and stuff has also come along where you can gain so much information, know the world, know your country, know your language, know your group. Everything is very important. And I personally enjoy reading sports books a lot. One of the reasons why I wrote Sacred Grounds is so that I could explain the differences and the sort of geographical marvel that is India through football. I can tell you about the culture of these places through sport. So somebody who likes sport can enjoy the culture. Somebody who enjoys the culture can understand sport. A great author in Norway, Eduardo Galeano, he said, "Show me how you play, and I'll tell you who you are." So that's the inspiration behind that book also. So just keep reading and trying to get as much information as possible.
Thank you, sir. And our next question is from Vivek. And the question is, how can student understand football better during matches, especially tactics and game reading?
Yeah, so the one thing is there are a lot of these websites and YouTube channels that are breaking down football. But I can give you some very small pointers. The most important thing in football fundamentally is finding space. It's like in life, you know, real estate is very important in life. Similarly, real estate on the football field is very important. So everybody is moving in a way so that somebody else or there is space for someone to score. So it's very difficult to say. Like I can make a run that is a dummy run so that I take a defender away from some space where somebody else can come in. So it's always a battle to find space in the football field. And the other team obviously knows that he's making a run. Can I block or do something, etc. So how you can break it down is just to keep watching, listen to experts. When unfortunately in India there is not a lot of tactical breakdown, but you can find a lot of foreign media, athletic podcasts, T4 podcasts, etc., who break down movements and all these things. So yeah, but always keep a lookout when you're watching who is trying to get into space, and when you see the replay, you'll understand that as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. And our next question is from Pooja. She's from Shimla. And the question is, what makes a good football story and how do you mix facts, data, and storytelling in your writing?
Football is fundamentally anything. If you look at sport as a thing, as an entity in its own, it doesn't really matter, no? If Virat Kohli scores a century, nothing changes in my life. But we feel it does because it's stories. So fundamentally for sport, for music, for just about anything, story and that relatability is the most important thing. So there has to be that human element. So when I tell you a story, what would be an example? A lot of times we focus on this rags to riches story in sports in India. Because it's a story that is easily like sort of relatable to everybody, overcoming the odds, etc. I think if you read literature theories, there is like only 7 or 8 types of storytellings or story archetypes. Rags to riches, killing the dragon, tragedy, comedy, all these kind of things. So we are all writing similar stuff. How you mix things is if you have an emotional coefficient. So, like for example, Mama, Shiloh Mama came to play football in Calcutta. First Mizo to come out and do it. The previous person who did it, K. Kola, played in the 70s but didn't really inspire because of this political and situation in Mizoram. But this Mama came out, he had no idea, he didn't speak any languages other than little bit of English and Mizo. But he came in with this unbelievable uh, desire to prove that he can belong here. And he went to the top club right off the bat. And he didn't want to go to a smaller club and work his way up. He went and challenged himself. And when he first got the salary, I think it was 1,20,000 or 1 lakh or whatever salary, he didn't know what to do with the check. So he kept it inside the Bible until somebody told him, go and cash it. So that's the emotional side. But then there's a factual side. He's coming from Lunglai in Mizoram. Where is Mizoram? Who knew about Mizoram at that time? The things that he had to overcome. The facts are which year did he get into Tata Football Academy? How many goals did he score? When he came into East Bengal, how many games before he started establishing himself? How many goals? How many assists? These are the facts. When did he play for the national team? When did he become a star player? These are all the facts of it. So you use facts to inform the audience about achievements, and then you use emotions to tell the story. So think of it as masala that you're adding in your food. The food is your facts. The masala is the story that you're adding.
Thank you, sir. And our last question is from Isha. And the question is, though football is played worldwide, why is it still not as popular in India as compared to the other countries?
See, yeah, that's an interesting question because that's something that everybody is asking now because of the World Cup. So it's a complicated answer. Football is extremely popular in India. You can see just from the World Cup that is happening, number of people who are watching and all that kind of stuff. Football is very, very popular. You could even argue it's probably the most played sport because corporates and older people and kids and all of them go and play. You know, on turfs, in local grounds, in corporate tournaments, in local tournaments, in actual football thing, in neighborhood places. So football has a very high amount of people who are active in it. But the issue that we face when it comes to competitive success is that our system and structures are not good. First of all, there is age fraud where somebody who's 15, 16 is playing in under 13 division. What happens is when I'm a 13-year-old and I'm playing against someone who's physically so far ahead of me, because development as a child is very different, is that I am unable to beat them on physicality. So the people who have done this, they will keep climbing higher and higher. But then when it comes to around 20 years old, 18, 19, 20, where everybody is sort of physically developed, whatever advantage that you had in your youth system, you don't have it anymore. So suddenly now you have to rely on your skill. But the problem is you didn't focus on your skill because your physicality was so much better. So if they're in the meantime, if an original 13-year-old playing against them, that person, what often happens is they sort of get, oh, I can't break into this and it's too difficult for me, and they leave. But if they stick on, they have to find solutions. If football or sports is always about finding solutions. You are faster than me. How do I find a solution to beat you in my competition with you? You are a defender. I am a striker. You are stronger than me. What do I do? If you're stronger and faster than me, I have to be technically and tactically better than you. So there was a test done for ice hockey players in Canada. So the players in under 15 level or under 13 level who were born in December were significantly less developed than players who are born in January. It's just a matter of 1 year. So these players in January were dominating in the age group. But what they found is once it became 18, 19, the players born in the second half of the world of the year started doing better because they didn't have physicality to depend on. So they had to find solution technically, tactically. So we have to first of all curb age fraud in India. That's something that coaches in the youth division has to do because youth football or youth sport is not about winning and losing. It is about development. Winning and losing happens at the highest level. There you allow people to play, you allow kids to have fun, you allow kids to develop motor skills and learn and all these other things that sports are involved in. And then the other major issue is lack of game time. So Ranadi Singh, former captain and played for India for many years, he was telling me a story about how in under 17 or under 18, he played against Japan and India lost 2-1 when he was playing with them. It was a tough, close match. 7 years later, they played World Cup qualifier and India lost 7-1. Because what happens is in Japan and all these developed places, people are always playing. So you have to, the way you develop is you train, then you play, and then you recover. This has to be repeated. Train, play, recover, train, play, recover. So in Japan, a kid under 12, under 14, I'm taking Japan because they are an Asian side. It's easier for us to make, they were similar to us maybe in the 80s and so on. In Japan, they play 48 games per year, every child on an average. In India, we play around 28 or 32. So let's assume they have a difference of 15 games per year. So from 15, from say 12 to 18, in 5 years, that is multiplied by 5. So that's they play around 115 games. Let's say 130 games more than a player in India, and that's that many more repetitions. This is why I said consistency is the most important thing. It's not about being able to do something well once. It's about being able to do something without thinking consistently. Every day you do repeat, 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 repeat. Then it becomes sort of second nature. So in our development, these are not things that federation doesn't know or coaches don't know in anything, but our structures do not reward the right things. Youth coaches are rewarded for winning stuff. That should not be the case. The best coaches in all sports has to be at the youth level. If you look at Sachin Tendulkar, he still talks about Achrekar sir as the coach that helped him play badminton. He was a coach for Sachin as a kid. So that's the development bit. That is where you need to get your best coaches, and then you need to give them opportunity to play. More and more, less than 10% of everybody playing in youth level will make it to a professional level. So you need to give them structures where if I play football, I get an education, then I can't make it as a footballer. I need to get a job or get an education which can then get me a job, or something has to be done. These are there in name, but it's not enforced properly. Again, none of this is rocket science. None of this is difficult to understand. It's just our association and federation, whatever, they just don't want to do it. And every 4 years, there is this huge hoopla about why India is not able to do this. And in 11 Messis, from a billion, you can't find one Messi and all these kind of things. Population is not very important. Croatia has 4 million people, they are in the World Cup. Portugal has 6 million people, they are in the World Cup. Cape Verde has 500,000 people, diaspora players, so slightly different. Population is not the point, competition is the point. Even in India, if you look at Manipur produces a lot of players because there is a lot of competition in Manipur. Everybody in Manipur wants to be a footballer. So they're competing very hard, and only the cream of the crop will come to the top. So Montevideo in Uruguay produces a large number of players, far more than many other places. Paris in France, because the competition there is fierce, and for you to stand out, you have to be really good players. So even if you don't make it at the international level, maybe you will make it at a state level, club level, something. So we need to have all of these sorted out. Again, none of this is very difficult, or I'm not saying something new. People are just not doing it.
Thank you, sir. And I would like to call Anuradha ma'am now if she has any questions.
Yes, thank you, Shivangi, and thank you, Sandeep. Sandeep, I have one question. Since the World Cup is going on, so just who's your favorite player in the World Cup that you're following, and in India too, do you have a favorite football player in India?
Oh, it's tough. Favorite player in general in the World Cup is Messi, because I'm an Argentina supporter. But having said that, I always want to see non-European teams do very well. So Asian teams doing well, African teams doing well, Latin American teams doing well is very important. So I was very happy that Morocco won today. I was a little upset that Japan lost yesterday, but at least it's Brazil who had beaten them. So I want to see these teams do well. But Messi is the best player. But my favorite player growing up was Zidane and Fernando Torres, though. But yeah, Messi is unbelievable. From an Indian standpoint, it's very difficult because I've been a journalist. It's difficult to uh, not look at them as fans, because you're looking at them with a little objectivity, right? So I loved I am Vijayan because again he's a Malayali. He's from my land, right? So as I mentioned, you could identify with Vijayan because you see so many people just like Vijayan playing football in my neighborhood also. So he was my favorite player because I felt like if he could do it, I could also do it. Of course, I couldn't do it because I was not talented enough. But he gave me that hope and inspiration. Him and Jopal Anjeri also were around the same time, and P. Pradeep, many others from Kerala. Uh, there, Eugene San Lindo, who I mentioned earlier from Meghalaya, is also someone because Eugene San came late into football. He went, studied, and did engineering, and didn't really like his engineering thing, so he left. And then by the time he reached professional football properly, he was over 25. So his window to be a professional, a top professional was only 3-4 years. But in that 3-4 years, man, he was some player, amazing midfielder, great, free kicks. He could run fast. He was great, passer of the ball, and he could score goals. Very, very nice guy as well. So yeah, I think these two, and then Sunil Chetri for Sunil is very interesting, right? He's considered as one of the greatest player. You can argue him or Baichung or Baijan or anybody from Silent Manna or whatever, Gostopal, all these people. But what fascinates me about Sunil is Sunil came to India after a stint in Portugal and US when he was 28. He was considered as a good player, very good player since he was like 16, 17. But if you look at Sunil, his career's great moments came in the latter part of his career. So post 28, in his 30s, he had the best career. He had his peaks in 30. And that is purely Sunil understanding the importance of discipline, which is sports science, eating the right thing, sleeping in the right way, not, doing whatever, eating crap food or going and drinking and partying and all these kind of things. He made a conscious decision. Of course, the environment was conducive when he came to Bangalore FC. Well, you can read about it in my book about Bangalore FC also. But Sunil himself, his book will come, I think, maybe in a few years. They are working on it. But he transformed himself into a player to such a level that in his 30s, where footballers wind down, he had his best years. So for a youngster looking to be someone, Sunil Chetri is that person. He is talented, but he's extremely hardworking. And that is why he's playing at 40, 42, whatever age he is now. So you don't need to look at Ronaldo and all these players. You have a Sunil Chetri and a Virat Kohli and these people right here who are doing their best performances in their 30s and extending their careers purely because of their discipline.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Sandeep. It's like you've delivered a complete masterclass for us. Even for the adults, I'm sure for the students as well. Because, I had no idea, the way you've connected everything, culture, politics, identity, everything, and how, sports brings you together. And how, some people, like you said, they weren't talking to each other and suddenly they're high-fiving and they, ball de do, ye pass kar do, wo pass kar do, goal ho gaya. So, everybody's together. तो यही होता है like and I think students जो देख रहे हैं they can relate to it because अगर आप नहीं भी जानते एक दूसरे को आप खेल रहे हो तो आप दोस्त बन जाते हो उस बीच में and what you said कि अगर students इस उम्र में आप खेल रहे हो तो it's not about winning. No. It is about discipline and just learning and showing up and development
and having fun.
And having fun. That's the main thing. Having fun. Football is fun. So and जिसने भी and as Sandeep said स्टूडेंट्स के लिए ये आप लोग पढ़िए एंड आपको और जाना है तो और पढ़िए आप इनकी बुक भी पढ़ सकते हैं दैट इज सीक्रेट ग्राउंड्स सीक्रेट ग्राउंड्स अ जर्नी थ्रू पीपल्स फुटबॉल इन इंडिया यू कैन रीड दैट एंड आई वुड सजेस्ट कि अगर आप मतलब ये इट्स अ रियल मास्टर क्लास तो अगर आपको टाइम मिले तो आप फिर से ये यूट्यूब पे रहेगा ये टॉक सो यू कैन वॉच दिस एक्सपर्ट आर अगेन ऑन यूट्यूब anytime you want, any number of times, and there's so much food for thought here. So thank you, Sandeep, again for doing this for us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope everybody had. It was okay. It was not boring or anything.